Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Life Talks with Dr. RickyAllmon, Leadership After Dark. I'm so excited to be here with you once again. It promises to be an amazing conversation. This podcast is where we seek to empower you to explore your potential, engage your passion, and expand your possibilities for exponential productivity. Listen, I need you to do a couple of things for me quickly. If this is your first time here, or maybe you've been hanging out with us a little bit, but you still haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead right now before we get into this conversation and just hit that subscribe button. It's just that simple. Subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody else. Tell them to come over and watch with you, join the conversation. While I'm talking, if you've got questions or comments, share them in the comments section. I'll post it on the screen and we'll talk about it. But let's get into this. So go ahead and subscribe now. Secondly, I want you to join my Impact Nation newsletter and group. There's some exciting things that are getting ready to come real soon, and I want you to be a part of it. So go ahead and text the word Ricky Allmon to 22828. Ricky Allmon, you see it on the screen. Text Ricky Allmon to 22828 and go ahead and join Impact Nation so you can receive my Impact newsletter. And then if you want to receive notifications about whenever we come on live, whether it's this platform or any other platform, I can send you a quick text along with the link. So all you got to do is hit the link and you'll be on. Those of you that are subscribed to our text notifications, I'm sure that's how you came on tonight. So go ahead and tell somebody else. Life Talks with Dr. Ricky Allmon is on. This is Leadership After Dark. This conversation is for grown folk. This is for people who are serious and intentional about their life, and I'm so glad that you're here. What is our subject tonight? I'm glad you asked. Don't talk so much. That's what we're talking about tonight. We're going to be dealing with the art of silence. When's the last time that you were just quiet? Maybe I should ask, when's the last time you were around somebody that encouraged you to be quiet? I'm not saying they told you be quiet, shut up. But I mean, they just encourage you to practice some solitude, to engage meditation, to just not talk so much. Even in the middle of pandemic, it is obvious that we are in a noisy world. We have been inundated with information and bombarded with a cacophony of messages, all seeking to establish authoritative legitimacy in our life, whether it's on social media, whether it's on a cable network channel, whether it's somebody you talking to on the phone. Everybody that you engage wants to have authoritative legitimacy in your life. And here is the issue. Everybody's talking. But my question is, who's listening? Where do you put the emphasis in your communication? Do you focus more on talking or do you focus more on listening? There's an age-old adage that says silence is golden. Now let me disclaimer this. Silence is not golden when it comes to speaking out against racial inequality and social injustice. No, that's when you need to unmute yourself and holler as loud as you can to everybody you can against any inequities in our world. But silence is golden when it comes to your interpersonal relationships and when it comes to strategic living. It's important for us to learn how to listen, how to be quiet. How much do we miss out on because we're always seeking the talk. We're always looking to share. Even when it comes to this platform, it's called Life Talks, not Life Listen. But the reality is, I could have very well called it Life Listen. You know why? Because the inspiration for this platform comes from me listening to the world around me, paying attention to what those who are closest to me are saying, engaging people in their ideas and in their paradigms and their concepts, because that's the key to life. And may I sagaciously suggest that I don't know if you have anything worth saying if you haven't learned how to listen. When it comes to communication, particularly in the context of interpersonal communication, in my personal relationships, when it comes to strategic living, I have one mantra that governs and guides how I communicate. You want to know what it is? Are you sure you're ready for it? Okay, here we go. You ought to write this down. You ought to text this to somebody. Maybe there's somebody who literally needs to hear this tonight because you've been telling them, hush up. Well, let me give you a better way to say it. The one mantra that I live by when it comes to interpersonal communication is, Ricky, don't say everything you think, and think about everything you say. I think I'm going to give some emphasis. Let me give it to you one more time. Don't say everything you think, but think about everything you say. Do you know one of the number one causes of miscommunication? One of the number one causes of miscommunication is just because somebody didn't know how to be quiet. In other words, there was something being said, there was something being articulated that the receiving party didn't take time to intentionally hear. So as a result, their response was misplaced or unwarranted. Oh yeah, you ought to tap and give me some thumbs up on this. Their response was misplaced. You know why? Just because they didn't hear properly. Most communications, whether it's in a marriage, whether it's in business, whether it's in friendships, whether it's you driving down the street, it's because you missed the cue. You missed some critical intelligence because you were not paying attention. How often are we guilty of listening to talk instead of listening to understand? Right now, while I'm talking, your brain is going, and that's okay. I mean, this is designed to be a provocative platform. It's designed to invoke thought and critical thinking. It's designed for you to talk back to me and share your thoughts, because while I'm talking, I'm listening, I'm watching. I want to hear what you have to say back to me, no matter what subject I'm talking about. Because whatever subject I bring to this platform, I'm merely exploring the subject. There's some subjects that I may know more in than others. There's certain subjects that I may have given the hours of study to where I can be considered an expert to it. However, there are other subjects that I'm trying to figure out myself. But no matter whether it's a subject that I may be considered an expert in or something that I'm exploring, on all subjects, I'm open to hear what somebody else may have to say. And so it's important for us to listen, not just to talk, not just to get your next point across. How many arguments have started because somebody was chomping at the bits? I can't wait to get my point across. Instead of sitting back and hearing what's being said, instead of predetermining what you think the communicator is saying. How many times have you done that? Said the wrong thing, responded in the wrong way because you assumed what you thought they were going to say. And so, even on the other side of that, when we talk about don't talk so much, on one side, you've got the interpersonal, you've got the strategic living, and I'm going to come back to that because I want to give you some ways to be more effective in how you communicate and get a balance between listening and speaking. And you should always lead with listening. That's good right there. Always lead with listening. Even if it's just exchanging pleasantries. There's nothing worse than somebody patronizing you. How you doing? And then they go ahead and talk. Well, you just asked me how I was doing. So if you ask me how I was doing, I assume that you want to know how I'm doing since we're taking the time to talk to each other. But have you ever had somebody, you call them and they say, how you doing, Cheryl? And right when you get ready to say, well, you know what? My right leg fell off. They already, child, let me tell you. Well, you're not really interested in hearing how I'm doing. So I want to encourage you this week, this month, the rest of this year, for the rest of your life, pay attention to how your world will shift. How much more you'll understand if you lead with listening. But now, on the other side of that, particularly in this social media sphere where virtual has now become reality, there is something known as oversharing. Oversharing is simply when you talk too much on social media, whether it's IG, whether it's TikTok, Facebook. I'm sending everybody, look like I'm sending stock up tonight. So all of y'all that I'm talking about, y'all can promote me on your platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Have you ever came across anybody that just overshares? They just share too much. First of all, I'm trying to figure out how you got that much time to share so much. But then beyond that, it's important to understand that there are rules, unwritten rules, that govern how we share, what we say, how much we say. And one of the things I've been thinking about, particularly when it comes to this social media space and when it comes to oversharing, one of the things that I've really been asking myself is, why do people overshare? And here's what I've come up with. Just a couple of things. The primary reason is because I believe there is some sociological or psychological deficiency. What do you think about that? I think some people overshare because there's something they lack. There's something missing. There's something they're void of, and they need an outlet. They need a place to vent, to express. But you got to understand, social media is not your place to vent unfiltered thoughts. Remember what I said earlier, don't say everything you think, and think about everything you're going to say. So here are some of the sociological and psychological deficiencies that people experience that cause them to overshare. I hope you're not one of the individuals I'm talking about who overshares. And if you are, don't talk so much. But one of the reasons people overshare, particularly on social media or even in personal relationships, is because of a lack of attention and affirmation. Maybe they feel they just need to be affirmed more. They need somebody to pay attention to them, and they can't find anybody to pay. It's like a 2-year-old child that wants you to pay attention, or even a baby, an infant that feels like they're being neglected. What are they going to do? They're going to cry. They're going to start boo-hooing. They're going to bawl. You know why? Hey, pay attention to me. Well, that's what happens on social media when people overshare. You're like, my goodness, do you have to share what your favorite color is every day of the week and it changes every day? We don't necessarily need to see every plate of food you eat. Okay, I know I'm being a little facetious, but you get my point. Nor do we need to know your thoughts on everything. I said everything, I didn't say everything. We don't need to know your thoughts on everything in the world. Keep some of that to yourself. Work it out in your head. Because guess what? Your ideology may change by tomorrow. And now you got to come back and undo what you were so authoritative about on yesterday. So that's one reason people overshare. They need some attention, they want some affirmation. The second reason people overshare, and I feel like my heart goes out in this area, is because they don't have a safe space for candid and constructive conversation. I want to encourage everybody that's listening to me tonight, find a safe space. If you're in a relationship, I hope that your significant other is a safe space. Your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, in a family unit, I hope you got somebody that's a safe space. If you don't have that, a friend, a confidant, or a counselor, but find a safe space for candid and constructive conversation. If you do that, that'll prevent you from oversharing. And if that's not enough, build your own safeguard and ask yourself, is this something that I'm willing to back up if the whole world comes against me for it? So that's so important. Don't overshare. Now let me give you a couple of things that I feel are very critical and that I use in my life. So I'm not going to share something with you for you to implement and practice if it's not something that I do or that I'm attempting to do in my life. There are three things that's very critical to consider whenever you talk. Every time you open your mouth, every time you move your tongue along with your teeth to form syllables and words and phrases and sentences, you need to consider these three things. Are you ready? Because this is the crux of the matter. This is what I wanted to get to tonight when I told you my subject, don't talk so much, the art of silence. Because what I'm trying to get you to understand is the words coming out of your mouth will only be as powerful as the thoughts in your mind. Your words actually come from your silence. But if you don't know how to quiet yourself, if you live in the noise in your head, then what comes out of your mouth is going to always create some kind of confusion or chaos because you haven't created silence. I need a whole conversation just on that. But how to create silence, that's why being silent is an art. It's more than just being quiet. It's knowing how to silence and still yourself. It's something I practice every day. I know how to just sit and be quiet. If you've ever studied monks, they are a sociology lesson on solitude and silence. You ever been around somebody that was so still within themselves that when they said something, you had to lean in? When they said something, you wanted to get close because you knew they didn't waste their words? Are you that person? Are you the type person that has learned how to quiet yourself to the degree that, as they used to say of E.F. Hutton, when you talk, people listen? Or are you always talking so incessantly until nobody hears anything you say? Because what you're saying, you haven't thought about it. You haven't processed it. So every time you speak, three things I need you to consider. Number one, every time you speak with intentionality and mean what you say. Now, the key to meaning what you say what you mean. I shouldn't have to decipher your hieroglyphs and codes on what you're saying. Mean what you say by saying what you mean. In other words, use your words. It won't hurt you to learn a few new words a week. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. So that you can communicate in a way where it is, I don't want to mess with you too much tonight, but this is Leadership After Dark. Communicate in the way where it minimizes the questions. So mean what you say and say what you mean. Get to your point. Number two, every time you talk, you should measure what you say. It's not just what you say, but it's how you say it. Measure it. What does that mean, Dr. Allmon? That means temper it. That means put a filter on it, put a muzzle on it. But I just got to give you a piece of my mind. Well, you down to just a little slice. I try to preserve that piece. Don't say everything, but measure your words. The Bible talks about seasoning your words. Say them, put a little honey in them. If you're somebody who can be scathing, take a little the bite off of it. Measure what you say. And so after you mean what you say by saying what you mean, after you measure what you say, thirdly, maximize what you say. In other words, when I say maximize what you say things in such a way where it elicits how do I want to say this? It elicits, this is it, a productive response in some way, where it elicits something that will improve or create a call to action. Maximize what you say. I only have a few pet peeves in life, but a couple of those pet peeves are parochial conversation and banter. People who just talk just to be talking because they want to talk. Hey, Naomi, how are you? Exactly, Naomi. Make it count. What you say needs to count. You just get around people, they just talking and it doesn't matter. You like, what are you talking about? We have spent 2 hours with you bantering about, and I'm no better. I'm no clearer now than I was 2 hours ago. Make it count. That's one of the things I try to do every time I come on this platform is make it count. So that's very critical. Mean what you say by saying what you mean. Measure what you say. Temper your words. And then maximize what you say. Now, here's how these 3 areas work. I've got 2 things to give you, and I'm out of here. I think this is the beginning of the NFL season. I got to figure out who my team's going to be. But let me deal with the science of communicating. Let me talk a little bit about the science. Give me about 3 minutes. One of the things that's very critical, and these are things that you don't learn in college, unfortunately. These are some of the trade secrets that even communicators don't share publicly. But words are like music. You ever heard bad music? Music that was, the beat was off, the melody was off, it was a wrong note. It literally hurts your ears. They call it a cacophony. It hurts your ears. That's what bad communication is like. That's what it's like when somebody doesn't know how to talk. It hurt. Not only will it hurt your ears, it will literally hurt your life. It'll hurt your life. I know what they said when we were in school, sticks and stones may break my bones, words will never hurt me. That is not true. Words can crush you. Words can literally dismantle everything about you. So it's important that you use words well. Of course, that starts with listening, like I talked about. But then let me give you 2 secrets. Number 1, Every time you communicate, it's important for you to practice proper syntax. syntax. Syntax is the structure of the words you're using, the phrasing of the words. Syntax brings a melody to your words. I'm so intentional with the words that come out of my mouth that I want to make sure that it's like music to your ears. You know why that's so important? Because it makes it easier for you to hear me. It makes it easier for you to receive me. Now, I know I communicate for a living, and you may not, but guess what? Your life consists of communication. You're communicating all day, every day, in one form or another. So, wouldn't it help you to have the proper syntax? Be deliberate about putting words together well. That's why I mentioned a minute ago, it won't hurt you to learn a few new words a week. Maybe that's something I ought to add to this platform is every Thursday night we come on to give you a word for the night. A new word to learn. I think I may add that in. That may be a good idea. Just so you can expand your vocabulary. And the more you expand your vocabulary is the more you expand your lexicon and you got new words to use. So what proper syntax means is just say it the best way you can. Practice it in the mirror. But find the best way to say, even if you're upset about something, find the best way to say it, and you'll notice that your emotions will level out. Lastly, and I think this is very critical before we go, is it's important to practice an economy of words. Who is it? I think Shakespeare said it. Shakespeare said that brevity is the sign of wit. Brevity means to be brief. That's the sign of wit. I always tell people, if you can't say it in 2 minutes, don't say it in 20 minutes. And if you can't say it in 20 minutes, please don't say it in 2 hours. I can tell how familiar someone is with a subject matter by how concise they can be with it. Another word that can be used is pithy, Pithy. You see, you're learning new words tonight. I hope y'all writing these down. Go back and look in the dictionary. You got some words to use on somebody later on tonight or tomorrow. But practice an economy of words. Try to say what you're saying with the least amount of words. That's good, Monica. Monica said, I've learned to be precise and concise. Monica, tell me, how has that worked for you? When you're concise, when you're precise, how have you noticed that the person you talk to responds? Because I think that's very critical. It's very critical to pay attention to how people respond when you're precise and concise versus how people respond when you're not precise and concise. That's very critical. That's a good thing. So use an economy of words. Listen, thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope I've helped you. I know my subject. I'm sure you're like, what is he about to tell me? To just shut my mouth and be quiet? Don't talk so much. But I want you to learn the art of silence, to literally learn how to think before you speak and not to say anything out of your mouth that you haven't processed in your mind. I hope you've enjoyed this tonight. If you have any questions, please just type them there in comments. You're exactly right. Monica says, when you're precise and concise, it leaves little room for error. Right. Because if you just go into a conversation, just playing it by ear, just going off the cuff, you leave too much room. Sometimes, even in an informal conversation, it's good to write it down. You know, if you need your spouse to understand something, write it down. And I wouldn't go into the conversation with your notes, but just commit it to your mind so you'll have a context so that you don't leave any room for what you say and to be miscommunicated. That's so good, Monica. Thanks for sharing that. Listen, thank you all for joining me for Life Talks tonight, Leadership After Dark, where we seek to explore potential, engage passion, and expand possibilities for exponential productivity. I hope that one or all three of those have happened tonight while you've listened to me. Listen, if you got any subject you want me to talk about, just email me at info@rickyallmon.org. INFO at RickyAllmon.org. You see my name right there. So just add .org to it. But I'm so excited about what's getting ready to happen. Also, I need you to please text Ricky Allmon to 22828 because I got something real good coming for you that you don't want to miss. It You can't imagine anything more than this. Well, there's more than this. And I'm so excited. It's going to be innovative. It's going to be inspiring. It's going to be transformative. But the only way, I'm not even going to post about what's getting ready to come on social media. The only way you'll be able to find out is by joining Impact Nation and getting that Impact newsletter. Listen, subscribe to this channel tonight. Go ahead and like this video. Share it with somebody else. Grab the link right now to this video. Text at least 10 people and say, look, you need to watch this. Don't tell them to shut up first. Just tell them to watch this. Tell them this is what I've been trying to say to you, but I've been saying it different. Dr. Allmon said it for me, so I don't have to tell you. But thank you for joining me. Have a great Thursday evening, and I hope you have a great weekend. I holla.